Hello and welcome to the Heart of the Matter. Today we are going to be looking at some of the reasons why someone with an avoidant attachment style try to avoid conflicts. And we want to keep in mind that conflicts are never comfortable for anyone, regardless of what our attachment style is. But let's focus on the avoidant attached style person, because what I find is that my friends who's got an anxious attachment style and those with a secure attachment style can find those with the avoidant attachment style to be very confusing. And they generally seek to understand and appreciate where their avoidant attached partners or friends or family members might be coming from. So if you've been in this relationship with an avoidant attached, you might find that every time something uncomfortable comes up, they either bolt or they shut down completely, and you probably won't have much from them. Before we get into this, I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button, and you're going to be updated every time there's a new episode coming up. And it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for your support. So many of you have tuned in, sent me your questions. Always feel free to do so. You could always send me your questions. You could email me at annalisabahadur.com, or you could follow me on social media and connect with me there. Without getting more into that, let's just move straight into exactly why you are here. You're here to hear some of the reasons. You're here to understand why an avoidant attached person may try to avoid conflict. Now, before we get right into the reasons, and I'm going to share 7 reasons with you, let's talk a little bit about the difference between a dismissive avoidant attached person and someone who's got a fearful avoidant attachment style. A dismissive avoidant person is going to be someone who will shut down and may not respond at all during conflicts. You may ask questions and you're going to be met by a wall. They may walk away from you without any explanation, without any emotion attached to it. Someone with a fearful avoidant attachment style. Now, this is a mixture of someone who's got an anxious attachment style and someone who's got a dismissive avoidant attachment style. So chances are this person could very well speak up and push back and may get a little aggressive verbally. It may even get physical. You would not find that with someone who's got a dismissive avoidant attachment style. That would be a fearful avoidant. But also, they can very well shut down. And the best thing you can do when either one of these attachment styles shut down or walk away, whatever wall they put up between you and them during times of conflict, the best thing that you can do is allow them space to process. It takes time, so you want to be gentle with yourself as well. You want to give yourself the grace to learn how you respond and react as well. So not every time, now that you have this information, not all the time would you be able to just, go quiet into yourself and self-soothe and calm yourself and control how you respond and how you react. This takes time, but having the awareness starts the ball rolling, and you're going to eventually get there. Now, it is confusing for the anxious or secure attached person when your avoidant attached partner or friend pulls away instead of feeling the urge to resolve the conflict as you would generally want to. Those with the anxious and secure attachment style want to resolve conflicts, and that's mainly because it is uncomfortable. You don't want it to happen again. Those with the avoidant attachment style would prefer if the problem just disappears, and this is why you would find that when they leave and return, they may still not talk about the issue. They just want to move on, move past from that discomfort. It's not because they don't recognize it or they, did not see it as a problem. It's just a hope that eventually it's going to go away. One of the reasons they do it, and if you don't have your notebook and your pen as yet, I would ask you to pause this and go get it, because what I find is that the clients of mine who spend the time taking notes, copious notes, are the ones who heal and understand and appreciate and become more aware, build empathy and boundaries a lot faster than those who don't do it. So, but that's entirely up to you. So let's get back into it. One of the main reasons that they try to avoid conflict is the same reason most human beings will try to either resolve a conflict or avoid it: self-preservation. Individuals with an avoidant attachment style prioritize self-preservation above everything else. It is our human nature protective mechanism to avoid anything that we deem harmful or painful. We want to live. As a human species, we want to survive. And in self-preservation, we want to stay away from all the things that makes us uncomfortable, including conflicts. That is the quickest way of empathizing with a human being, to see that it's the same fears that we've got that they're also struggling with. Conflicts can evoke feelings of vulnerability and absolute discomfort, and this will lead them to retreat or withdraw. And again, it's really for their own emotional safety. It's got nothing to do with you. They're just protecting themselves. There's also the fear of rejection. Avoidant individuals may have a very deep-seated fear of rejection or abandonment. Generally, that is the case. If they speak up in a time of conflict, then they may feel like they're not going to say the right thing. So they prefer to remain quiet or walk away from the situation, hoping that it's going to go away, instead of opening up themselves to that rejection, to being shut down. They also want to avoid emotional intimacy at any, especially during this time. They generally avoid emotional intimacy at all costs, but especially when there's a conflict, they don't want to open up themselves to a confrontation. They struggle with expressing themselves and managing their emotions. And that is why a lot of times we tend to label those with avoidant attachment style as being overly sensitive. What it really means is that it's a person who has not yet learned how to control their emotions and the triggers. And why does that happen? Well, we are threatened. When we're insecure about ourselves, we can very well react impulsively or be very sensitive to certain things. So they try to avoid emotional intimacy or anything that might call for an emotional discussion. They also have a need for autonomy. They value their independence, and this makes them hesitant to engage in conflicts that will compromise or may compromise their sense of freedom. They want to be in control of themselves and the narrative, and they generally feel that if they're going to sit and have a conversation with you because it's something that you want, then they're giving up a part of themselves. Now, when we can appreciate this, then we can recognize that this is still a person who needs to work on their healing, and we could step back, pull our energies back to ourselves and take care of us, which will allow them to now work on themselves and their healing. Because when you're in their face, always willing to accommodate, then they don't have the space to value you, and they don't have the space to process what it might look like or feel like if you're no longer in a relationship with them. So stepping back helps them to put things in perspective and help the relationship in the long run. There might be a cognitive dissonance. And what does that mean? It means that a lot of times when someone with an avoidant attachment style says something, many times they're saying something that they believe that you need to hear. It comes from being that chameleon, being that people pleaser, showing up the way the other person would want them to show up. And that can cause them to contradict themselves. A lot of times we tend to think that these are people who are not very, we tend to think that they lie when it's not really so. They're just acting in a way that the other person would appreciate, or at least that's where the focus is. And that can appear as contradictory behaviors, which now puts them in the hot seat. Because if we can recognize that, wait a second, they're contradicting themselves, then they're going to feel terrible about themselves. And so they try to stay away from that because it can be a little bit too challenging for their internal sense of consistency. So cognitive dissonance is one of the reasons that they may stay away from conflict. Again, avoiding intimacy has been a big, well, that's not the struggle. Being intimate is the struggle for someone who's got an avoidant attachment style. And so they may try to avoid that. And having these deep conversations generally build a bond. When we build a bond with someone, then if we are not able to love ourselves enough to set boundaries, not having a handle on or a good grounding on who we are can very well sort of allow another person to hurt us. So they may stay away from having those deep conversations, necessary conversations to work through problems in an attempt to avoid building an emotionally intimate relationship. And another reason that a lot of people don't generally hear about or talk about is that many, many times someone with an avoidant attachment style may think that it's just futile to have this discussion. They may feel like talking about it is just not going to get them anywhere, that the problem will not be resolved. And a lot of times what they do is they see it for what it is and try to learn how to accept the situation for what it is instead of trying to change something. Because one of the things that they know better than most is that a person will not change unless that change will benefit them. People don't change unless the benefit of changing is going to make them feel better. So a lot of times what the avoidant attached person is trying to do is accept life as it is, as it comes, and avoid pain as much as possible. And that would be a few of the reasons, 7 reasons which I've given you, for why an avoidant attached person avoids conflict. I hope this podcast has been helpful for you. If it has, share it with your friends. Leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. It's always great having you here. Until the next time, this has been another episode of The Heart of the Matter.